All right, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. Brother Will you close that back door for me there? Thank you, sir. I know we're all Southern Baptists here, but there are some seats up front. We've about got the quorum for the committee, so for those of you that are standing, because it might get lengthy depending on how long the presenters go, I got no pushback from that. Okay. But y'all can come on up and have a seat, make yourself comfortable. We're going to call to order the Subcommittee on Economic Development Appropriations Committee. And to kick us off, we will ask Brother Matt Jackson, Representative Jackson, if he will, to open us with a word of prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shall we pray? Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this new year. We thank you for this new session. And now, Lord, we ask that you lead and guide us by your Spirit. Give us wisdom that we need to make sure that we do the business of this great state. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. First of all, welcome to the committee members and to those who are joining us today. It's a pleasure for me to chair this subcommittee. I've got big shoes to fill following Chair Lady Houston from many, many years. But thank you for the opportunity to do that and work with each of you as we work to better our state. Want to just make one quick change in the order of the agenda. Public Service Commission, we're going to move them down to last. Chairman Jason Shaw is traveling, and we're going to move them down a little bit further to give him more time to arrive here at the Capitol. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Georgia Department of Community Affairs, Commissioner Nunn. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, it's great to be with y'all. Glad everybody survived the snowstorm, and thank you so much for your service and your time. I will be brief, and I'm going to work off of the tracking sheet that y'all graciously provided. Thank you so much. Starting on page 3 on your tracking sheet, and I will just highlight that in the amended budget, we have no changes in our core programs. So that's page 3, but I'm going to turn your attention to page 4 and speak of the several additions that we're requesting in the amended budget. So I believe that JIFA is here and present, so I'm going to let Hunter speak to line items 16, 13, 1 through 3. JIFA is an attached agency to DCA, and those are some very important additions to address some infrastructure needs all across the state. I'll highlight under payments to the One Georgia Authority 1614.1. The first add here is a $28 million add, again 1614.1, that relates to the Governor's Rural Workforce Housing Initiative. This was a program, an initiative of the One Georgia Authority that was launched 2 years ago. We are actually at about the 18-month mark of this program, and we have made 22 awards to communities really all across the state. I think at last count they were in 10 different regions across the state to encourage the development of entry-level for-sale housing stock. So we know that we have housing needs across the state. We have tools that address rental housing development, but over the last couple of decades, really since the housing crisis, we've not been developing that entry-level housing stock, and so that was the intent here. Again, we've made 22 awards over the last 18 months. We've already seen significant progress in several of those communities, with others that are about to be coming out of the ground. We agreed at the 18-month mark we would look back and think about ways that we might need to improve the program. We have currently have a 24-month window on those, and actually many of the communities that have received awards fell into the portion of the state that was affected by Hurricane Helene. We're excited about the fact that there is new housing stock that will be coming on board in those communities. We're also looking at the timing and that 24-month deadline. Do you want me to move on to the next, or you want me to? So the other addition here at 1614.2 is a $20 million request to increase funds for another initiative, the Rural Site Development Initiative. This was a new program that was included in last year's budget, and we launched the program in October. A little bit of background, and I'm excited to share, and I'll get you all copies of this. This is the 25th anniversary of the One Georgia Authority. So 25 years of impact across the state, and that impact is really quite significant in so many respects. You know, one thing that we have invested in for the last 25 years is industrial infrastructure and capacity in communities, literally across the state. Because of the economic success that we've experienced for the last several years, much of that existing economic development capacity has been claimed. And so we launched a new Rural Site Development Initiative in October, and in December we made the first 6 awards. Those ranged from Dade County in the northwest to Screven County, Glenn County, Liberty County, Dodge County, and Houston Peach on the border. The $20 million here would just help us to continue that program in the new year. I would highlight that some of our neighboring states have put, I think Virginia has put about $175 million into site development. Alabama has put about $60 million. We've had some good conversations with North Carolina and Tennessee around their programs, and we think that this is a worthwhile investment. So again, $20 million request for the Rural Site Development Initiative. And with those 2 requests, that concludes our budget.
Commissioner, can you give us a little more detail on what that $20 million is specifically used for?
Yeah, so absolutely. Thanks for the question. Again, I kind of talked about what we've done over 25 years at putting in infrastructure, water, sewer, roads, other publicly owned infrastructure. And having done that over time in communities, I made a note here. I think that there are about 59 different communities where we have, over 25 years, built out infrastructure. This fund, the $20 million, which we granted 9.3 or 9.7 million in December. So we're doing it on a biennial or every 6-month cycle, is put into community-owned infrastructure. So again, water, sewer, rail improvement, if that's going to be community publicly owned, and roadways. So it's just helping to improve existing industrial property so that the local government can market that to job creators.
Great, thank you. Any questions from members of the committee? None? Well, Commissioner, I have one additional, on the rural workforce housing program that was instituted 2 years ago. Have you I guess you made the comment that y'all would go back in 18 months, take a look at it, see what changes to be made. Given the increase of cost of construction, et cetera, have y'all taken a look at the parameters of that program to see if anything needs to be done at this point?
Yeah, we have, and we continue to do that. We really we set out at the outset to get a little bit of experience under our belt. And looking back over 18 months, I will tell you that in pretty much every part of the state, there are developers who say, well, gosh, we would like to build homes that we sell for more than $290,000, which is our upper limit. And we say, well, great, do it. Well, we're not going to subsidize everything that is constructed in the state. We're really trying to get homes that are affordable to an entry level, to your basic workforce. Somebody who's earning $60,000 a year in their household. But the length of time to get these projects developed, again, every time we sit down, and my team sits down with the local community and with the developer, working together, is very transparent about the time and our expectation for them to move very quickly on a 24-month timeline, which is fairly consistent with all of our One Georgia projects. But because of the speed on the community front and also the developer front, that's probably the area. It's less to do with the price point and more to do with the time.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions? All right, Commissioner, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you
you
all.
being here today.
Appreciate it.
All right, up next, Commissioner Harper. I do apologize. My mic is extremely loud, so I've pushed it away a little bit, so hopefully it won't blow everybody out of the room now. So, Commissioner Harper, thank you for being with us today.
Should be able to way to make it go full screen. Who's this? Is this fine? Okay, all right.
And for members of the committee, we're starting on page 1 of the Section 13 Department of Ag is where we'll be in the tracking sheet.
Should be able to go full screen with it. Well, I'm not gonna worry about it. I'll just work with it like this instead of trying to make it go full screen, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, and congratulations to you, Mr. Chairman, on your new role. Obviously, us at the department look forward to working with you in your new capacity, and appreciate all the work that all of you do. So thank y'all. It's good to be here. It's been a busy year for us at Ag, and we'll get into the budget, but just kind of an overview really quick. As always, I like to kind of lay this out at the department. You know, we have 22 divisions. We issue over 70 different licenses. Our funding is broken down 81-19 between state and federal funds. And we have 23 attached entities to the Department of Agriculture, some of which you'll hear from in just a little bit. And obviously, we definitely are always working with them and support their asks as well. But we obviously have a lot going on, and we do a lot through the department. And I think a lot of times when people see the Department of Agriculture, I think they forget about all the other entities that we're a part of, and even our pass-throughs that roll under us administratively. As far as some things that we've been up to over the last year, obviously last year we passed the new hemp law. Our agency has been working really hard in rolling that out and getting the new rules and regs in place. We've been working really hard, obviously with limited funding and taking on a lot of those upfront costs ourselves, but since the law went into effect on October 1st, we've issued about 3,700 licenses, and we have been doing that rigorously. Unfortunately, we've been having to touch some of these licenses about 3 times, unfortunately, so it's taken us a lot of time to get them through the process and having to focus a lot of time on that. We have about 7 people that are working on that for us. We have 3 part-time individuals and 4 full-time folks at the department that are working specifically on getting those licenses out. We've been doing inspections as well. We've done over 100 inspections of facilities since then, and obviously we'll be ramping that up as we get these licensed facilities online. Those inspections obviously are done by some of our law enforcement personnel, but we have currently have 3 civilian inspectors working in the hemp program. And we'll discuss a little more about hemp in just a minute when it comes to the budget. On EVs, that's been a topic we've been discussing a lot over the last couple of years. Just to update on it really quick, last year the General Assembly funded us some program money to help us get this thing off the ground, to get the program off the ground. We've been working with Georgia Tech, really closely with Georgia Tech, actually. They've been a phenomenal partner in this with us. We ordered the equipment back in May after we were given the funds. Unfortunately, the equipment didn't come in until December. So we're working with Georgia Tech now on a prototype. We've been building out a special trailer and a special vehicle that we have specifically for this. And so there's a lot that's going into that, and the funds that you appropriated to us last year that we're working through. And obviously we look forward to continuing that conversation on how the EV program will be successful. In relation to some emergency responses we continue to deal with the yellow-legged hornet, obviously the hurricane, and HPAI. I'll hit on all 3 of those real brief. Really quick, the yellow-legged hornet was the first sighting in August of 2023. This past year, we deployed 1,200 traps in the Savannah area and 8 counties surrounding Savannah. In 23, we eradicated 5 nests. This past year, we eradicated 47 nests. Unfortunately, it continues to be an issue, and we see certain hot spots. But of the about 1,200 traps that we deployed, 500 of them would what we would call a positive trap. We found a hornet. Over 600 of them were negative traps, which means we didn't find a hornet. So that gives us an idea of where that hornet is located, and so we can focus our efforts in those particular areas. To give you a resource allocation from the department so you kind of have an idea, we have 27 full-time employees that are involved in this in some capacity. We have hired on 5 part-time employees and have 3 more part-time employees in the works to bring online to help us with our yellow-legged hornet eradication effort. So it's taken some significant resources from us as an agency. But because of the efforts we've had in our team, we've been recognized this past year. The National Plant Protection, the President's Award was given to our yellow-legged hornet team. To put that in perspective, that is the Heisman Trophy for plant protection in America. So the Georgia Department of Agriculture Plant Protection Division got the Heisman Trophy, and we're pretty dang proud of that. Matter of fact, it's better than the Heisman Trophy because they don't give it out every year like they do the Heisman Trophy. So our folks have done really good work, and we're really proud of the work they've done related to the yellow-legged hornet. When it comes to hurricanes, obviously Hurricane Debbie and Hurricane Helene have been significantly devastating. And I think when it comes to the Department of Agriculture, you know, we have a role in the State Operations Center as ESF 11 and our work with our other sister agencies and state partners in addressing these responses. But I think when people think of the department, I don't know that they realize all the things that we do when it comes to emergency response. We truly are an emergency response agency as well, from damage assessments to working with companion animals. And this year, I think is what's neat is this is the first time ever that we deployed the Companion Animal Task Force, who worked to locate and shelter misplaced companion animals throughout the hurricane impact zone. It was a significant partnership between our agency and private partners, but also things we did like providing cattle water locations, and that's what that map is on the screen. We were able to locate and provide water locations for cattle producers in the hurricane impact zone, so they could go get water for their cattle because they didn't have power. And so those were things that we do at the agency in ensuring that we get critical infrastructure back online, and our responsibility when it comes to emergency management, not just in hurricanes, but in other activities as well. So there's a lot that we do at the department that I think is worth pointing out. When it comes to Hurricane Helene, all of you know, it was significantly devastating, over $5.5 billion impact to agriculture across our state. That does not include future losses. That's just direct losses from this particular storm. If you talk about future losses, you're looking at almost another $5 billion in future losses to agriculture and forestry. It's been tough on all of agriculture, tough on a lot of families. When you compare it to Hurricane Michael was about a $2.5 billion impact. And so this is significant. You know, we've been doing the Weathered But Strong private fundraising effort, and part of that we were asking for comments from folks that applied for those funds, where the department partnered with 40 plus ag groups to put that funding together. We raised almost $1.8 million in private funds to give out to producers, which has been a phenomenal success, and I can't thank those partners enough, and Farm Bureau and the Foundation for Ag for taking on that administrative burden, so 100% of those funds goes to producers. But we asked them for some quotes, and some of them are, "My grandchildren won't even see the trees I have that are this age in their lifetime. This has been devastating to our family. We will have no income until the next trees mature again. I had to sell my cattle herd. With low prices and high input costs in this storm, I don't know how I'll stay in business." Those are direct quotes from farmers and producers, timberland owners all across the impact zone. And we know the impacts that it's had, but until you put a face to the damage, a face to the impact, you put those quotes to what happened, I don't think it really rings true. We talk about numbers here a lot and under this gold dome, but I don't want us to forget about the men and the women and the farm families that are hurting and that are still hurting. And we've done a lot, and we're going to continue to work together to ensure we get them the help they need. I know Congress has passed some disaster aid, and we'll be working on some block grants through the state. We're still working to get that information on what we're going to be able to, what responsibility we have and how much money we're going to be getting as a state. We haven't got all of that yet, so we're still looking for that. But it can't be lost on us, the impact that this has had. And as a state, we did do some things this past fall. You'll see in this budget, under GISFIC, the $100 million that the board met this past November at the direction and leadership of the governor, where we moved $100 million for hurricane relief. 75 of that went to the Georgia Development Authority for low interest loans. 25 of that went to the Georgia Forestry Commission, and I know Director Sabo will be speaking to you in a bit, but our partnership between the Georgia Forestry Commission and the Department of Ag, as well as our friends at Warnell and the College of Agriculture, I can't speak for that enough. It has been a phenomenal partnership where we all come together in helping our farm families and timberland owners and others that were in need, and this program is a perfect example of that. In regards to the Safety 24 loan program that we put together, of the $100 million, 75 went to that program. To date, we've received 322 applications for a total of $121.3 million in requests. So we have 45 million more in requests than we have funding to be able to fund those low interest loans. If you were to ask me, well, how many more loans do you think you could get? By the way, we closed the applications on December 31st. That's the reason I put that specific line in there. Those additional applications were ones that trickled in after the application period closed. We think we could see another 250 to 260 applications or more. As Chairman Meeks, as you know, farmers, they don't start thinking about things till the end of the year. And I think that's the reason we saw that flood of applications at the end of the year. And when you're thinking 250 to 60 more apps, that could be easily another $100 million on top of the $45 million that we don't have right now for what we have in request. So I just wanted to point that out for you so you know what we've done and what we're doing. So far, we've approved 40 applications for a little over $15.1 million, and we're starting to approve those weekly, and we're going to be rolling that money out as quickly as possible through the Georgia Development Authority. Lastly, and not as far as emergency issues we've dealt with, for the first time ever, and for the fifth and sixth time confirmed in our state, we have a high-path avian influenza event in a commercial poultry flock in our state. This is significant. Poultry is, we're the #1 poultry state in the nation. $84 billion agricultural industry. Of that, $30 billion of that is tied to poultry. A little over a third of our ag economic output and the ag economy is tied to our poultry industry, so it is very significant. We responded quickly. We got the notification late Thursday evening on the 16th. We immediately activated our Emergency Operations Center. That was one of the things that, working with our team at the department, the team that I brought in, we built out an Emergency Operations Center specifically for this case, and those pictures you see are from inside of our EOC that we have at the Department of Agriculture. It was for those of you involved in emergency management, you understand the importance of utilizing technology and having the ability of having partners sitting around the table so you can make immediate decisions. And that's what the Emergency Operations Center is for, and that's why we built it out. And we stood it up so we can be more effective, more efficient in responding to this emergency as quickly as possible. Because of biosecurity, we immediately secured the area. We locked the roads down. Our law enforcement guys locked that down. You couldn't get in or out unless you had a reason to be there. And that is critical because we did not need this virus spreading any further than where it already had been, because of the critical role that it plays and the impact that it has on our poultry industry and could have on our total economy as a state. But we work quickly. We have been in operation practically 24/7 since January 16th. This operation is still ongoing. We're still working. We still have team members on site in Elbert County today that are still working. It's obviously we're in this until we get it addressed. Hopefully we see some light at the end of the tunnel. But we were able to address it quickly and quarantine it and contain it fast. I think that's the critical part here is our team went to work quickly to get that done. And this was a multi-agency response. We had a lot of agencies involved, from Elbert County to Hart County, the Georgia Forestry Commission. They sent us a lot of help, and I can't thank them enough. GEMA, the Poultry Federation, the Poultry Lab, Public Health, USDA, and as well as industry partners have been involved in this. That's a picture from our team members and other industry and contractors that were going on site getting ready to help us address this. So it has been a multi-agency coordinated response, and I can't thank our partners enough for their help in helping us address this. But it's definitely a critical issue that we take very seriously at the Department of Agriculture, which is why we locked it down and secured it as quickly as we did. And we're going to work through this as quickly as possible so we can ensure that our poultry industry continues to be successful. One key thing I want to say here, since I'm on a microphone, because this come up a number of times during this event, our food supply is safe. Our food supply is secure. And because of the quickness of our agency and our partners in responding to this, we can confidently say that there was no contamination of the food supply in the state of Georgia or anywhere else for that matter from this event that occurred here in our state. And I think that's critical that folks know that they can enjoy that chicken, wings. Matter of fact, I ate chicken every single day of the event just to prove a point. And we were, while everybody was, all for enjoying the snow and in the winter weather, I want you to know that our team has worked nonstop through the weather, through the storm. We were here in Atlanta in the Emergency Operations Center, as well as our team in Elbert County. We've been nonstop since the 16th, and we will be nonstop until this is eradicated. So, moving on really quick into the budget and specific requests. In the governor's budget, you'll see $37.4 million for the Atlanta Farmers Market. As you know, last year we were given a $37.5 to start investing in us building out the farmers market and addressing the needs that we have there. This will continue to in that line and allow us to continue to build out and address the issues we have at the Atlanta Farmers Market, to continue to make it what it truly is, it being the produce capital of the southeastern United States. And it truly is that. And we appreciate that investment and look forward to that continued investment so we can ensure that our farmers, farm families, and others have access to high-quality places to sell their product, and consumers have access to high-quality food as well. The governor also included a little over $425,000 in for our hemp program. We obviously are supporting both of these additions and would ask that you continue to do the same. In FY26, we'll be asking for a little bit more when it relates to the hemp program, but this will help us continue to get our feet under us and ensure that we continue to be successful. As I said earlier, we've been very successful up to this point. This will continue to bring on some additional equipment and additional inspectors to allow us to ensure that we're addressing the issues that we see out there and ensure that our licensees are abiding by the law and the rules, and we also continue to get those licenses out as quickly as possible. When it comes to our asks, I mentioned earlier the Development Authority and the funding that we have for the Safety 24 loan program. I mentioned to you that right now we have $40 million in loan requests that we don't have funding for. I mentioned to you that based on our survey and understanding of what may be still out there, there could be another 250 or 60 farmers and applicants that could apply for those low-interest loans to the tune of about another $100 million. So if you asked me how much would it cost to fully fund, you're probably looking at another $140 to $150 million in addition to fully fund what we believe is still out there to help our farm families get through this trying time. We're very grateful for the $75 million and the $25 for forestry, but definitely look forward to continued conversations on how we can ensure that our farm families continue to be successful and get through this situation as quickly as possible. When it comes to our capital request, last year you helped us with some vehicle funds to help us purchase some vehicles department-wide. We, again, are needing that as well. We have 51 high-mileage vehicles that we need to replace. That $2.1 million would help us replace those 51 vehicles. So obviously, whether that's in the amended fiscal year 25 budget or in the big budget 26, we just wanted to put this on your radar. This could be funded in either or, and would appreciate your attention to that. Lastly, when it comes to emergency management, we've been dealing with a lot. We've learned a lot over the last week. We know we have some resource needs when it comes to addressing AI as well as other emergency events that may transpire in our state. And we do have an equipment need that we realize that we need to the tune of about $370,000. I'd be happy to get you that breakdown of what those equipment needs are. But that need is specific for us to ensure that we are able to address those issues as quickly as possible as they come up. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. I appreciate your attention. I know that was a lot. I know I talked about a lot. But as always, we have a lot going on at the Department of Ag, and I'm proud to always report on the great work that our over 500 employees do every single day in supporting our number one industry and ensure its continued success.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for the great work that your team does do in supporting that number one industry. As a colleague of mine at home said regarding to Georgia agriculture and the industry, Georgia farmers are pretty resilient. We can withstand tropical storms, we can withstand hurricanes, and we can withstand low prices. We just can't do it all in 1 year.
Amen.
So I think that's kind of the take-home message from my perspective of talking to folks back home who have been impacted. So thank you for the great work you are doing. Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, thank you for the great work that you do. I've experienced the work that you're doing, and it's great across the state. You talked about the poultry industry. Can you talk about the price of eggs? Why do eggs keep going up on us?
So that's a good question, Representative Jackson. So, when you look at HPAI across the country, this started years ago over around the other side of the world, and AI worked its way around the flyways all across the world, and it eventually hit the United States on our eastern and western seaboard almost at the same time. And it's worked its way across the country. And over the last couple of years, we've been dealing with high-path avian influenza nationwide. Matter of fact, over 35 states, Georgia now being one of those, unfortunately, have had issues in commercial flocks. We have seen over almost 140 million birds, poultry, that have had to be put down because of high-path avian influenza. A lot of those are egg layers. And HPAI, a lot, there are other demands, but that has played a significant part in the increased cost that we've seen at the grocery store. So when it comes to AI and the importance of us ensuring that we're protecting our state from it, protecting our consumers, obviously, but protecting the poultry industry specifically, it also helps protect the pocketbook for our average everyday consumers. And I think that's the immediate tie for that shows how agriculture impacts the economy and how agriculture impacts those kitchen table issues that families have to deal with. And we're seeing that right now with the price of eggs. And that's why it's important that we ensure that we eradicate, focus, and ensure that we're protecting and doing everything we can to ensure that this never comes to our state again. But if it does, we're as prepared as possible to address it as quickly as possible so we've minimized the impacts. Unfortunately, in some of our other colleagues in some other states like California, they're seeing a significant, it's running rampant in their state. And so that's part of the reason. But it goes to show that tie between ag and the consumer pocketbook and the impacts to agriculture and how it impacts you at the grocery store and at the kitchen table. So that's why.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Questions from other members of the committee? Commissioner, does the department have any additional needs for the state agriculture response team?
So that when I was mentioning the AI, that would be equipment needs specifically for our emergency management response teams, our ag response teams. And we would like in FY26, we'll be coming back, probably looking at some position emergency management related to that we could fund through our emergency response dollars. Those SART dollars have been significantly beneficial to us and our team, and we appreciate those. Believe me, we're putting them to good use. But we've learned a lot over the last week, and we'll be coming back with some of those other asks in FY26. But that 370 or so was equipment related to that emergency response, specifically for that team. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. One other question I have is, can you give us an update on the funds that we have been provided thus far for the state farmers markets and where we are in that process?
A lot of those funds have been expended. I can be happy to give you a detailed breakdown, but most of those funds have been spent on water and sewer infrastructure projects. We're also in the process now of putting in a retention pond on the facility that has been desperately needed. Those funds were utilized towards that. We've been doing a lot of upgrades on security as well, increasing our security presence on the market via cameras, increased technology. So there's some more work to do in that regard. This additional money, hopefully that if the General Assembly will agree with the governor, we'll be able to utilize some of that to go toward more security upgrades. But it's been really drilled down toward significant infrastructure investment in power, water, sewer, having the back line laid, so whenever we get ready to do construction, all of that is completed to where we can tear down and replace those 50, 60, 70-year-old buildings that are on the market currently, and that would be ready to go. So that's where a lot of those funds have went.
Okay, thank you. In terms of funding for producers in our state, you acknowledged that we could probably use another 140 to 150 million in additional requests that could be handled from applications submitted by producers. Given the timeline that we're on, producers are beginning to make those decisions now. Yep. We understand that upwards of, in talking to lenders, 25 to 30% of the producers in our state may not farm this year because they can't get loans. What kind of timeline are y'all on for awarding the initial funding that you have? And then the follow-up is, if additional funding was provided, how quick can we get it out so that it's impactful for this current crop season?
So like I said a minute ago, we've already rolled out 40 of the applicants, a little over $15 million. We've already done that. We actually are meeting this week to roll out an additional round. As far as the board, our plan is we're meeting at least weekly, if not multiple times a week, to roll out those funds and doing it as quickly as possible. We've brought on some additional staff at the Development Authority to help us work through those applications. We've pretty well got in a rhythm, I guess you could say, to where we can roll this out as quickly as possible. So if we were able to get some additional funds, we feel very confident that we can just put that into our current rhythm and just continue to roll that out quickly and hopefully have it all rolled out over the next couple of weeks. The initial round should be rolled out here in the next couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. We should have most all, if not all of that, rolled out here pretty quick.
Okay, with any potential additional funding, is it a process in which you can let lenders and suppliers know of some of the growers that, hey, we're working through this process, this is what we anticipate, although it can't be guaranteed, just in terms of spring's coming pretty quick?
We could definitely have those conversations. You know, our folks at the Development Authority, they obviously are in communication with a lot of those lenders. They know a lot of those lenders personally as well. Obviously have those personal relationships with the farmers and producers on the ground. But if we knew that we had some additional funding coming and knew we were able to fund a certain number of applications, we could definitely start those conversations so lenders know that there's some things in the works. As you know, we don't know when the money's coming from USDA and from the federal government. You know, we've had a change of administration that slowed a lot of things down. unfortunately, but hopefully they'll get that ramp back up and we'll get that out as quickly as possible. But time is of the essence, and we're rolling this out as quickly as we can, and we will do everything we can to ensure that there's confidence in what we're doing, including if we have to have those conversations with lenders so they know that there's that help is on the way.
Well, if there's one thing that the Department of Agriculture understands, a member of this General Assembly, is when it comes to agriculture, the one thing that doesn't wait is the calendar.
That's exactly right.
When it's time to go, it's time to go. So thank you for your great work. We
Yes, sir.
appreciate you being here today. Any other questions? Mr. Gilliard, what number are you, sir? Are you 4?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To our great Commissioner of Agriculture, I am so elated and glad that you have expounded upon the hemp industry. I remember when we first did the first initial bill, House Bill 213, there was a lot of expectation for the growth of hemp in Georgia. And trial and error, we might have not put everything we needed to put into it, but you definitely got your finger on the pulse. I want to thank you for that vision.
Yes, sir.
Because I believe that Georgia's hemp industry will elevate. What is the average license fee for the hemp industry?
I'll have to get back with
Processing.
you on that if that's okay. Can I get that? Can I get you that answer back? I don't have it off the top of my head. We have a different license fee for the different licenses, and if it's okay, I will get my team to send you all of that fee schedule. Will that work, Representative? I'm sorry.
No
We got a lot going on. I don't know everything off the top of my head, unfortunately. I try to, but
Hey, when eggs have issues, I do understand.
I understand. Yes, sir.
One second question. You mentioned about the farmers markets, and when Commissioner Black was there, we did a lot of work with the Savannah State Farmers Market, and we've seen, the businesses that are there that are counting on still, surviving. That you've started some progress on that. Any updates?
So we're obviously continuing to work to ensure that the Savannah market is successful. We know the importance that it plays in that particular part of the state. There's a lot of connection to the ports and what happens at the Savannah market, and so it's definitely all of the markets have. So to kind of give you an update, Representative, I don't know that we've had this discussion, but one of the things we did last year, or I did, is we created a farmers market division that never existed in the department. We've hired a division director, and we are specifically focusing on all of our farmers markets all around the state, including Savannah, and putting a renewed focus on the future and the vision of all our markets. And so I think that investment is going to help not only Savannah, but every market continue to be successful. And we're continuing to find ways to ensure that that's the case, whether through new partnerships or whatever it may be. And we look forward to partnering with you to ensure the Savannah market continues to do just that.
Thank you for the great work that you continue to do.
Thank you.
Mr. Gamble. Can you pass that mic over, Mr. Gilliard? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm down here in the kids' table. But
We appreciate you being there.
yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you, Chairman.
That's normally where they put me.
No, I just want to say, Commissioner, and I got to be careful here because I've got a lot of friends here that I respect that are also agency heads. But you came to our chamber and you gave a program back in the fall. It was one of the best chamber meetings that we've had, and our people really appreciated the time that you spent to go into detail of what you're doing at the Department of Agriculture. And I just wanted you to know that that didn't go unnoticed, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Well, thank you, Representative Ganaway. It was great to be in your part of the state and look forward to being back.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner, thank you. Thank you for your time and the great work,
Thank you,
great
Mr.
work you're
Chairman.
doing.
Thank y'all for what y'all are doing. Look forward to our continued partnerships. Good to see y'all.
Georgia Ag Expo.
I'm not sure.
Well, if it's not, then I'm gonna turn it down and just see if it comes on.
Yeah, the video should be on there. It looks like that's just an audio file. Might need to close it out.
Did it not, it's a movie, let's see.
It doesn't seem that the video.
The video didn't, only the audio. Oh, well, okay, well, we won't have it. Do you have the copy of our presentation?
It should be loaded up there.
Okay, I don't know why I can't get this thing to close. Here we go, I'm gonna take this out.
The Is that it? The Agriculture Expo? Have you seen yours? That one? Okay. Do you know how to share? Do you know how to? Okay. You can use these buttons.
Ms. Shemp, thank you for being with us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Turn it
Chairman.
over to you.
Great to be with you all and members of the committee. I appreciate you. I do want to mention for the AFY 25 budget, we do not have any changes. I do, however, want to say thank you. We received $22 million to invest in a new sheep and swine barn and an arena, and we are extremely excited about that. And I'll get into where we're at with that project in just a little while. But I would like to give you an overview of what's going on at the Georgia National Fairgrounds and Agri Center. You know, we work under the Georgia Agricultural Exposition Authority. That's a mouthful, but our mission over 35 years, we've stayed the same. We showcase agriculture in Georgia, and at the core of that is youth. Youth in agriculture. We say that we like to be their prime facility for a place to come for youth to display their agricultural projects. We take a lot of pride in that. Also, as part of our mission, we're here to stimulate the economy of the state of Georgia. We do a pretty good job of that. And as we get through this presentation, I'll show you some examples of that. A new project that's coming on with us, we're building a Marriott hotel on the property. It'll be a dual brand Fairfield town place. We're really looking at this hotel to boost our commercial side. We've got to raise that commercial revenue to pay for what we do on the backside for our youth in Georgia. This is one where we're already receiving RFPs from conventions across the country to come in and make their home Perry. So we're looking forward to that. Completion should be sometime late June, early July. So we're looking forward to that coming on board. Here we'll go into our project. If you look under GAEA 25, $22 million to fund a new small species barn. I got to tell you, among your constituents and those involved in youth show and agriculture, they're very excited about this project. For a few years now, we've noticed the number of small species coming to show at the fair and at our livestock show in February just going off the charts, and we're running out of room. So I appreciate the state's investment from the governor's office, legislature. Thank you all. It's not going unnoticed in Perry. Currently, we're in the design phase. We've selected a designer. It's with them. As a matter of fact, when I left, our construction consultants and the designers were meeting to put the final touches, hopefully, on that design. Another investment we've just made is $1.2 million into what was formerly the Perry CVB Welcome Center. I'm happy to report that investment, the Georgia Cattlemen's Association, is now located in Perry, Georgia, and occupying half of that building. We're in talks with the Cotton Commission as well as folks from UGA for the Grand Farm to occupy the other half as office space. So Again, thank you for your investment in the Georgia Agricultural Exposition Authority and the fairgrounds. As part of our mission, our economic impact, if you go through, and we partnered with the University of Georgia. They came in and really studied our operation for about a year. I'll go to the next slide. You got to notice the cute little girl with the goat. That's the most important part of that study. So, our total impact on the state of Georgia is about $133 million. 23 and 24, we followed suit. That's about the impact. And we notice a lot of those dollars, they're brand new dollars to the state of Georgia. They're folks, our equine industry especially, they're folks coming out of Texas, Florida, from all over the country. Dog shows as well. We like horse shows better than we do dog shows, but they're coming from all over the country, and we're happy to see them come. Our revenue sources, if you look, one of the issues that the fairgrounds has and what we're working on is the majority of our revenue comes from a 11-day event that happens outside. A little bit of rain, a hurricane, it really affects our bottom line. What I would like to show you, out of all of our business, livestock, because we're youth-oriented in livestock, only 1% of our revenue comes out of it, because most of the livestock events that we have, they're youth shows, and we do them either at zero cost or we do them at a very minimal to the show that's coming in. We've recently done a study. The authority invests $2.6 million into the youth programs that we have at the fairgrounds. And we really can only do it right now, and we're pushing towards self-sufficiency. $2.6 million is a lot to make up because of your investment, the appropriation that we receive every year. One of the issues, another issue that we're having is costs of everything is going up, just like eggs. Fuel, cost of labor, everything we're seeing is going up. So we're doing our best to make do with what we have. One thing that I want to mention is 35 years we've been in operation. Our mission has never changed. It will always remain the youth and agriculture. And we just want to say thank you to the legislature, thank you to the governor's office. We appreciate your investment. We did have a video to show. Okay. Yeah, I'll mention something about FY26. Attached to your report, handout, is a letter. It's our request for FY26. And what we're asking for is a continuation of our appropriation of about $900,000. That money is invested directly into our youth programs. It helps us offset that $2.6 million cost. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Well, thank you, sir, and the great work that you do there at the fairgrounds, supporting our Georgia's youth and the programs that they are involved in, both 4-H, FFA, and others. So, any questions from members of the committee? So, with the $900,000 appropriation, is that a part of the $2.6 million that you were saying that it takes to support those programs?
Yes, sir.
From the revenue that is generated by the fairgrounds?
Yes, sir. So we're trying to make up that other money throughout the year to put on those shows and support those programs.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Mr. Stephen, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you being here. If we have any additional questions, we'll follow up. Thank you. Soil and water.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for letting me join you this afternoon. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, we do not have any adjustments for this fiscal year in the
That's
amended
awesome.
budget. But what I would like to do is take the opportunity to just give you a couple brief updates on what the agency has been up to. Maybe. Oh, it's okay. There we go. So in our erosion and septic control department, we've hosted over 500 E&S courses and certified over 4,300 individuals. Any individual involved in land disturbing industry, whether they're the boots on the ground installing the practices, or they're the superintendent on the job, or they're drawing up the plans for the job, they have to have a certain amount of certifications that run through our office. And like I said, we've helped out over 4,300 individuals this year be able to stay on job sites and get work completed. Along with that, so far this fiscal year, we've reviewed and approved over 17 erosion and septic control plans with about a 2 to 3 week turnaround, which is something we're proud of. The review that our office does is the last step to let these people get to work on those job sites. So we're excited to be able to have them to work in 15, 20-day period after they send that to us. We've also added 8 new best management practices to the Green Book. This will allow 8 more products out there for those companies on job sites to use a part of their tool belt, to help their jobs go smoothly. As an agency head that serves the governor that says Georgia's the best place to work, live, and play, we're very proud of our E&S department that allows that development while protecting natural resources while they do that. Moving on to our conservation and our soil and water conservation department. We've put $240,000, almost $250,000 into Ag BMP's ground, helping producers protect their land and their downstream neighbors. We have $400,000 that's spread out across the 40 soil and water districts across the state to showcase Ag BMP implementation. The thought process there. The districts find a good setup. They implement BMP practices, and we'll use it as an educational purpose moving forward to get other producers knowledge of best management practices and a functional idea of how it could work on their land other than just talking to them and showing them pictures about it. Sure most of y'all are aware that the feral hog issue in the state of Georgia is tremendous and growing. We're excited to have $500,000 for a hog exclusion fence. Basically an experiment. We're able to get some funds from a federal partner in Southwest Georgia area to try different types of fencing, different mechanisms to see if that will aid in our ag producers' feral hog problem. Like to also mention, Mr. Chairman, that these are all federal funds that we're operating these grants and programs off of. Just a quick picture of what some of our BMPs might look like on a farm. In this case, there's a creek back where the trees are, so we were able to help the producer fence that creek off, protect that waterway, and provide a new additional water source for his cattle. Moving on to watershed dams, in the last 9 months, we've been able to move 3 dams from the planning stage to the design stage. We've completed rehab on 3 dams and have maintained over 60 dams, kept them up with safe dams rules and regulations. And again, Mr. Chairman, I have no adjustments for the amended budget, but thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for being with us today. We greatly appreciate it and look forward to hearing particularly on your wild hog project with your federal partner there, results of that, because obviously it's a huge issue across the agriculture production region of Georgia. Any questions from members of the committee? All right, sir. Quick and easy. Thanks so much. Thanks for being here today. All right, Director Sabo. Thanks for being with us today. We appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Let's find a place to set this down. Maybe you kind of take yours. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Really appreciate this opportunity to be here and present to you and you know, talk about Georgia Forestry Commission and specifically focusing on Hurricane Helene and our amended ask. For those that don't know me, my name is Johnny Sabo. Just real quick, a little bit about my background, because I do believe it's pertinent to this. I spent almost 20 years in the state of Florida with the Florida Forest Service, working my way up to deputy director prior to coming to Georgia. So hurricane experience is pretty extensive, starting with Hurricane Charlie, everything from Ivan, Katrina, Michael. Panama City was home for me. So when I talk about hurricanes and the impact it has, it really comes from a personal standpoint. Yes, sir. Just kind of want to remind everybody of who we are and our vision. So Georgia Forestry Commission has been around for over 100 years. And in our mission statement, provide leadership, service, education, and protect. And I really feel like that gets lost a lot of times, that at our heart, we are an emergency response organization. And that is our job, is to protect and conserve Georgia's resources. At a glance, roughly 524 employees, almost 400 of those are direct wildfire response and emergency response. You can see some of our numbers there from last year, and I heard somebody the other day say that Georgia does not have wildfires. Well, last year we had over 2,600 wildfires for 13,000 acres, and that was a slow year. Some other outward-facing programs on top of forest management and protection, forest service utilization and marketing to work with industry and help. How do we help have healthy markets and help give good, healthy competition and drive those markets for landowners? Law enforcement, everything from arson investigation to timber theft, and then public relations. Operationally, this really played a huge part in our response to the hurricane. So we reorganized last January, and within that organization, we divided our state into 5 regions and kind of shoved everything into those regions and gave them the tools and authority that they needed to operate within there. So from region managers to fire management officers, lead foresters, training officers, and that really led to our success. So if you look at the regions 4 and 5 was really the main impact. And what we were able to do within those regions is not just have a span of control where we can account for our people, but we can have those personal relationships with the sheriff's office, emergency management directors, fire chiefs, and how can we put our hand on their shoulder and help them and assist them. Hurricane Helene response. I certainly don't want to read all of this off, but two that I really want to point out is the first one, the 40,000 miles of road cleared by GOC crews. To put that in perspective, that's 7 round trips from Savannah to Seattle, and that was in 12 days. I cannot thank our people enough for how hard they got after it. The other one was the 2,800 plots of forest land. We were able to use modeling after storms to determine the amount of timber damage. Well, everybody knows that this storm was different. At the speed it moved through the state, what it did, and it threw our models off. So we had to actually put some plots on the ground. So our foresters put in 2,800 plots after the roads were open in about 4 days to help us determine our numbers and our loss. One of the most important things there, though, is 0 injuries. So our people being able to remain safe working through that type of environment was something I was extremely proud of and thankful for. As the committee knows, and as Commissioner Harper said, and I certainly want to thank him and his leadership, we were able to take $25 million of that $100 million for forestry-specific programs. The fuel mitigation program, or FMIT as we're calling, that is an 80-20 cost share for landowners to help them reforest. We did fund every single applicant within that program a max of $1,000 per acre. As of today, some of the approvals have started rolling in. So we've approved 2 projects totaling $28,000, and right now those numbers, and these are very early numbers, but it looks like cleanup is somewhere between that $500 and $600 an acre. I think those are on the low end personally. It's a very small sample size, but as those numbers come in, we'll continue to adjust and really know how much more we can do. I will say with that program, we had 22 million in there. We had we had roughly 150 million in requests for that program. The fire breaks and roads program, this was not to install any new fire breaks. These were for existing fire breaks and roads that were impacted by the storm for us to go clean out. So far, 17 jobs, I should say, for landowners have been completed. About 145 miles and 137 equipment hours. So it's taken us just a little under an hour to do a mile's worth of work in that type of environment. And that is really important, and I'll get to it on the next slide, but when we start talking about fighting fire in our new reality and where we are. So fire danger ahead. Spoke a little bit about my experience. We know how this is going to play out. Year one this spring, when the grasses start growing and all the tops and everything that are dried, those are going to catch fire. Our large heavy fuels, the big pines, the big hardwoods in the bottom, those aren't receptive to burn yet. Usually those take a year and a half to dry out. So we'll start running fire in this impact area, and it's going to be, So some of the fires that we've already had, I'll give you a good example. A 2-acre fire that used to take us 30 minutes is now taking us about 5 hours because we're fighting fire with barricades in the way, and that is a real world number. So we will see a lot of that this spring. Years 2, 3, 4, and 5, the fuels that don't get cleaned up, they will start burning, and it will become a mess, quite frankly. And then those hardwoods dry out last, and when they become receptive to fuels, that's when we start seeing massive increased wildfire. If we start drying out, having extended drought periods, it really becomes an aerial show. So I know California's been on the news lately, and my heart certainly goes out for them and all the things that those firefighters are facing out there within some extreme fire weather. But we are not immune from extreme fire weather like that here in Georgia. It just looks a little bit different. But if we happen to get one of those days where in the spring or summer where humidities are in the 20s, the wind's blowing 25 to 30 mile an hour, and it's been 2 or 3 weeks since rain, we're in the same predicament they're in, right? So while we can play offense and we can have healthy forest management, we can have fire watch communities, there's a lot of things that Georgia does and does well. At the end of the day, we also have to be prepared to play defense. And I wanted to show this real quick if I could. For those they don't know what it looks like inside one of our tractors, there's a good shot of it and how long it takes to push through just a few trees. It's only about 25 seconds long. I can say if you get queasy, don't look at the one on the inside of the cab. But this is real world of what they're plowing and what they're doing right now. These videos are synced up between the drone shot and inside the cab. But it gives you a real world view of what our folks are seeing and what they're doing. Georgia has over 11,000 communities that are at risk for wildfires. That's statewide. 43% of those fall in a category of high to very high risk. So what we do is we try to mitigate those risks by working with homeowners, working with the HOA themselves, and then anything we can do in and around those communities with the larger landowners. Which brings me to my AFY 25 capital budget ask. 10.9 to replace open cab tractors with larger environmental cab tractors in the impact area. So we will focus all those tractors from Augusta to Valdosta. If anybody was involved with the ask last year, we have a budget replacement plan that we're trying to adhere to of roughly $12 million a year for 3 years to move us away from open cab tractors to environmental. We had 1.1 at the beginning of this year, so the 10.9 puts us to the 12 million total for this year. I can tell you turnaround time on tractors right now for the last ones that we just ordered were about 6 months. So that was actually really pretty good for a turnaround time for equipment of that size. The other one is 4.785 million for a new helicopter. Right now, currently, our helicopter is 25 years old, carries roughly 180 gallons of water, and it does a good job. It's a reliable ship, but it is getting old. This would not be to replace it, but it would actually be an addition to fleet. What I've committed to is finding internally and changing positions for the pilot and everything else. I'm really just asking for the ship itself. To put it in simple terms, right now we have an old Ford Ranger. I just need a stripped down 250 that can do some work. I mean, that's about as plain as I can put it. Something that can carry water and can do some work, because when these things get to running and we can't get through that debris quick enough, it's going to become an aerial show. With that, I know it's brief. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I can tell you this investment for our people, it's not just for our people, it's for the communities. The land that we serve, that we work, is your land, is private landowners. That's what we take great pride in doing. And I just want to thank you for your support and the support that we've received throughout this response. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, Director, thank you, and thanks to the men and women of your agency for their response of the hurricane. Yes, they did indeed clear many miles of roads. I had the opportunity to stop in and randomly visit with one group of them because I know to the west of us, south of between Hazelhurst and Douglas, I believe the entire stretch of roadway had to be cleared. And that was largely done by Georgia Forestry, and they were putting in some very long hours, and certainly appreciate their work in helping Georgians to recover. One thing I'd like to point out for those on the members of the committee and those who are watching, if you'd go back to the video of just clearing the brush there and how long it's taking to do that, the capital request for the committee. Imagine doing that in smoke.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, they're wearing a breathing mask, a breathing apparatus. Some of them do. Well, they have them available, but they may not always grab them and put them on. I've seen them in fires where they don't. But they're fighting that fire in an open cab tractor. So when we say we're looking at closed cabs, that's what we're saying when we talk about that. So I just want to make sure that folks can get a clear understanding of what that might be like. Now, if you had a fire burning there, it'd be a little different. But can you talk about moving forward in the time frames that you described between the pine and hardwoods, and when that's going to, I'll say, the fire time to mature, if that's the right way to say it? What kind of plan do we need to put in place and look at funding to help landowners across our state? Because you're exactly right. I live down in southeast Georgia where there are large tracts of timberlands. The hurricane did a generational damage to those timber stands, and we face in several years potential danger for fire and extreme fires that we've never seen before. So have y'all talked about, as an agency, what kind of plan can we put in place and what it's going to take to achieve that? I know it's a broad question for a short notice. But.
No, happy to, and happy to speak about the two programs that we already have in place, and maybe a few other programs that are out there. So the first one, the fire line plowing that we were doing, we had just shy of $10 million in requests to do that work, $3 million from GFSIC. So when those applications came in, they were ranked based on data that we have that shows high fire danger areas, fuel loading, and then adjacent to communities. So those would have got the highest priority. So we're putting in lines in and around critical infrastructure, adjacent to communities, places that maybe our local chief rangers determine of, if I have to make a stand, this would be a good area to put in a safety zone where I know I can get our guys and girls back to safety. So that's, quite simply, that's the program that we're working, that we have the most control of, that the landowner doesn't have to do anything but sign up and say, I need your help. Like I said, we have $3 million and almost $10 million in requests for that program. The fuel mitigation program, it is a great program, roughly $22 million funded. Almost $150 million in applications. I will tell you there's some noise in that number because there's a federal program, EFRP, Emergency Forest Restoration Program, which can also do some work for debris removal and stuff. So if a landowner chooses to go that route, they can't capitalize on ours. And just historic knowledge of programs like that for anything, usually you get about 80% is on the upper end for completion rate. Now, I believe we'll be in that upper end because we're going to be very aggressive in communicating and over-communicating with landowners about where are they, can we help you find a contractor, what can we do to help you get this accomplished. In that program, the reason we awarded everybody was to try to spread out, not to spread out the money as much as possible, but to spread out the work as much as possible, to create as much open area and defensible space as we can, throughout the impact area. There is the EFRP program that I mentioned that will do a lot of good work. And then something else that we've done is we put in a federal supplemental ask, which was awarded through the disaster package. We're still working with U.S. Forest Service to figure out what exactly we will get. Part of that is $4.5 million for increased mitigation work, continued pine beetle trapping in that impact area for forest health monitoring, just any type of literature information we can get out to landowners on where we can steer them to. And so when we start talking about playing offense instead of defense, it really comes to healthy forest management, right? Not having overstock stands, what can you do? And that's where we try to engage the landowner and show them how that benefits them, but not just them, but their community. So.
Great, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions from members of the committee? None? Well, Director, thank you again for what the men and women of your agency do, and we look forward to continue working with you as this body works to provide the necessary funding for you to make sure we're keeping our community safe. So,
Sure.
thank you.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Hunter Hill, come on up. How are you doing today? And for members of the committee, we'll be on page 4, section 16.13.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's great to be with y'all. Excited to present some opportunities to invest in the state. The tracking sheet, I've got page 19 of 77. As Christopher Nunn mentioned, we are attached to his agency. But I thought I would just go through the requests. And for those of you, I think everyone on this committee is familiar with what GFA does. I remember I served in the General Assembly for 5.5 years, and I don't think I knew much about GFA. But that's because I represented a more urban area of the state, and I know that we're a lifeline for the rural communities across the state, and I'm proud to be in this role. We have two main functions at GFA. We focus on energy and water, and today we're mostly here talking about the water side. And most of our funding for energy, almost all of it, comes from the federal government, and a lot of our funding in water actually comes from the federal government. But gratefully, since the state is doing so well due to y'all's leadership and the governor's leadership, there's been significant investments of state dollars into GFA. And the benefits to the communities of our state is huge, because the federal requirements that local governments have to adhere to on the federal programs is more stringent, and it's a little bit easier to use the state dollars, and so we use state dollars generally for water on economic development projects, and the Hyundai plant was no different. We invested a large amount of GFA dollars, Georgia Fund dollars, state appropriations into Bryan County for that purpose. And, part of the reason that we're here getting this additional, or requesting this additional money, is because that economic development, success breeds success. There's more people that want to move down there. There's more businesses that want to move down there. So the solution that was provided for that particular development is causing more economic development, and we need to get off our focus on groundwater in that area. And so I'll focus on the asks, if you will. I'll go to the Metro North Georgia Water Planning District. That's $500,000, which we do every 5 years typically for the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District to complete the state's 5-year water plan update. And then I'll get back to the Savannah area project in a second. And then if the project, the $501,700,000 request in the governor's budget, is for 3 counties, Effingham, Chatham, and Bryan, the Georgia Fund Infrastructure Program, the $250 million, that's for the other 156 counties. And so I think it's very important to distinguish the fact that that's why those are set apart, is the $501,700 $501,700,000 is for the surface water infrastructure investments for Georgia's coast, and the $250 million is for the remainder of the state. But back to the Savannah area project, there was a couple of drivers for why the governor decided to put this money in the budget. Number one was the near-term additional water demand in North Bryan County, which was about 6 million gallons a day to be met there was 4 wells in Bullock County as well. However, the state withdrawal water permit limited their use to no more than 25 years. And because of, again, our success in the state, I think that we realized, waiting to come up with that solution was not ideal. Now was the time to strike with the additional resources that are available. And so another reason for the need is the additional residential, commercial, and industrial growth in the area is projected to increase water demand by an additional 12 to 20 million gallons a day over the next 10 to 15 years. And then environmental limits on existing and new groundwater withdrawals in the area, because as you know, it's in the red and yellow zones. It required additional surface water to meet this need. So the proposal was to increase the availability of surface water to the area in 2030 by constructing a new surface water intake on the Savannah River in Effingham County, and then create a new 12 million gallon a day water treatment facility, which would have the ability to expand to 24 million gallons a day in the future. And then you'd have finished water lines that were going from Effingham County over to Bryan County to serve the Hyundai plant, as well as being prepared for additional growth in the area. And there's also additional enhancements for the Savannah I&D surface water treatment plant to increase by 8 million gallons a day. So this was a really good multi-regional partnership where there wasn't a need to put in a new, put in a governance above these two entities, because they all worked so well together. And they worked very closely with the governor's office to come up with this plan. So the request of $501,700,000 is broken out like this by county. It's $319 million for a new intake, water treatment plant, and water transmission line for Effingham County. In Savannah, it's $146 million for intake improvements and expansion of existing water treatment. And then in Bryan County, it's $36.7 million for water transmission lines. And all of these would be going to the individuals, and it's split out. I'm trying to give details that y'all might be interested in, so tell me if I'm going into too much detail. But I think it's important to note that the way that this is split out, it's not just all state grant, and it's not just all loan, it's a mix. And we've asked each of the local communities to split that. So half of the investment into their community would be grants or state direct investment, and half would be loans. And so the way that breaks out for that total is $532 million would be in the form of grants, and $269.2 million would be in low interest Georgia Fund loans. So we thought it was an appropriate share. Obviously, the state has a vested interest in protecting the environment and making sure we don't draw too much from our groundwater, and that's the reason for the state investment. But it's also going to benefit these local communities at a very high level, and that's why they're also going to be taking on loans to upgrade their systems. So those are the governor's recommendations for the budget, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for being here today, and we appreciate that. Any questions from members of the committee? I don't know that I have, one that I do have is of the $250 million for water and wastewater infrastructure development. I know the governor has, I guess last year also included some money in the budget. How has that program been going, and are most of the communities reaching out to you to gain funding for their particularly water projects that they're doing?
Yes, sir. We actually have demand. We send out each year what we call an intended use plan for the federal government, and we include the Georgia Fund requests in there. We have well over $1 billion in requests for water and sewer infrastructure around the state. So the $250 million that we got last year and then that is being proposed for this year is outstanding, and it's vitally needed. But when we say yes to a project, it's going to get drawn down over 3.5 years, and we don't get it paid back in some cases for 40 years is our longest amortization period. So we really have to balance that use, and with no guarantee that we're going to get continued resources, we don't say yes to every project. In fact, we try to protect our money for smaller and more rural disadvantaged communities around the state, knowing that our more populous urban areas can go to the private capital markets to get lending. But we have, since I've been there 3 years, but over the last 5 years, we've said yes to $1.9 billion in loans. And that's across all of our programs, but that just gives an order of magnitude for the need. And because of the federal government giving less money over time to our federal funds, this money is vital so that we can continue to say yes to communities. And also, if this money gets approved, we will be able to raise our limits. We're generally saying that a per project amount that we can say yes to is about $8 million, but with this money, and it used to be 3 in the Georgia Fund, so we moved it from 3 to 8, and saying yes to this money would give us the ability to say yes to $12 million a project, and that goes a long way for communities.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate you being with us today. Any other questions? Great. Thank you. Thanks
you
for
very
being
much.
here.
Appreciate it.
Economic Development. Ms. Sidney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name's John Moffett.
John, thanks for being with us today. Thank you for being with us.
With the CFO with the department, and with me today is Sydney Smith, our COO, and Josh Stevens, which is our government affairs, handles all our government affairs. There's not a lot in the document today. We're on page 29, but I'd like to go over, I believe all of you received our year-end review at your offices earlier in the session. I'd just like to go over some of the highlights for the department.
For members of the committee, we're on page 5 of the tracking sheet that we have here. Go ahead, sir.
And Commissioner Wilson sends his regards. He's sorry he wasn't able to attend today's meeting, but he is out. As you know, we're the sales and marketing arm for the state of Georgia, and we've had a lot of successes over the years. And all the predecessors have spoken earlier. A lot of them work with us on all these projects that we've been doing, and we couldn't do without all of your help and all the other agencies around the state that help us with all these things. But in the last year's review, global commerce, we had $20 billion in investment, and we generated 27,000 jobs. And a lot of times people think that's all happening in the Atlanta area, but actually 83% of those jobs are outside the metro region. Our trade division had new highs, $50 billion in exports and $186 billion in total trade. And most of these exports in that area is for small businesses. These are very small businesses. They're talking 20 or less individuals in these positions there, in these jobs. Our arts, $4.7 million in grants, 344 grants, and we service 147 communities, counties. That's the most we've ever had. A lot of that is due with the ARPA funds that we received over the last few years, which is about $11.4 million, and that has really helped with the communities, especially that area has been hit very hard after the COVID. A lot of small business, things like that, that was probably hit one of the hardest of all our divisions. Our tourism division, 171 million visitors, and the spend was $44 billion. A lot of spend. Georgia has a lot to offer. We like to market this state. And with the money that we received in EDA funds for tourism, we were able to do more of a national advertising this year in the last few years. Where normally we weren't able to do that, we've actually done a national ad campaign for the state. And then one of our other big areas is film. 273 film and TV productions and $2.6 billion in spend. That's a quick version of our year in review, a lot of successes. Like I said, we have a sales and marketing arm. We're promoting Georgia, live, play, work, and we've been very successful. Over a decade, the #1 state in which to do business. So we're proud of that, and we have a great team behind us. Talking about the tracking document, there's really only one item that was put in our budget, and that was moving $250,000 to our agency for the Georgia Joint Defense Commission. That was initially established under Senate Bill 398, and now it's moved over to our department.
All righty, thank you, sir. Mr. Gamble.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate your comments. Did you say on tourism that we had we generated 171 million visits and a $44 billion economic impact?
Spend, yes, sir.
Okay, and we're spending $11 million in that category. Is our budget for tourism?
Total budget is $11 million, yes, sir.
Are you aware, comparison to any other states around us as far as their spend on tourism? Are we, and you don't have to answer this now, we can talk offline, but I would love to know kind of where we're at in the breakdown of what others spend.
We're one of the lowest spends on marketing dollars in tourism in the Southeast, but we can get you those numbers.
Yeah,
sir.
I think we out punch our weight on tourism as far as what we spend, and I just wanted to point that out. Y'all do a great job with it, and it's an interest of mine and a passion of mine, and I wanted to highlight that because you mentioned it, and I think that's pretty strong figures based on what we spend and what we get out of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
On and maybe something to get back to us on 23.8 rural development, the 1.397. Can you drill down a little bit for us and let us know kind of what activities that does go for?
Okay. So that budget is basically for 4 positions, okay? Two of the positions, one is the site development for rural communities, and we have that individual hired, and that person is from a rural community, so that is a nice fit. The other one is the project manager for the Hyundai project. So that's 2 of the 4 positions. The other 2 positions are for the rural initiative that was established. 2 of those people have retired this year. One retired at the end of July, the other at the end of September. So we're currently doing a study reaching out to small businesses around the state to ask them some of the sticking points and some of the problem areas that they're dealing with. We're going to gather that information. We have a new Deputy Commissioner for the Global Commerce Division joining us in mid-February. So when that individual comes on board, we're going to kind of do an analysis of everything, and then we're going to be looking to fill those positions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions? Great, thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for your time.
Georgia World Congress Center. Hey.
Yeah, this is it. It's not showing up. You know the name of it? Is that it? So I just reopened it. There you go. Sorry about that.
Thanks
afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Congratulations on your appointment. I'm Kevin Duval. I'm with the Georgia World Congress Center Authority. And while I'm not new to the state of Georgia, I'm new to this role as my predecessor, Frank Poe, just retired in December. So I'm glad to be here with you today. But I've been with the World Congress Center Authority. This is my 23rd year. So look forward to working together with you. You know, as everybody's been highlighting, just our economic impact for the World Congress Center. We hosted in the last fiscal year over 160 events, welcomed 3.3 million visitors to the state of Georgia, and had an economic impact of $1.8 billion. So we're very proud of that, continuing to fulfill our mission attached to the Georgia Economic Development Department of Economic Development. Notable events that we've had just within last week, as a reminder, we just had the championship game last Monday night, believe it or not. And then earlier in the hearing today, we were listening to the poultry industry. And beginning tomorrow morning, bright and early, we'd love you to come out and join us for IPP. We'll be back in the house. They've been with us since 1977, so we're certainly glad they're going to be here. But this just gives you a feel for some of the larger events we do, some annual, some biannual events that have impact and help us produce our mission here at the World Congress Center. Real quickly, we've been grateful for all the funding that we've had for projects across our campus, inclusive of the transportation terminal, pedestrian mall, an exhibit hall expansion several years ago, and then an orange parking deck that we finished up several years ago also. Most recently, we finished up the Signia by Hilton. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to go over there and see that adjacent to our campus. It's a real jewel. We're very proud of it, and we just finished our first year of operation. I can remember being here talking about it last year, and we were just getting ready to be open. So we're certainly excited about that. We're also thankful for the governor's office and for the legislature for all the funding that you do continue to supply us. We're in the midst of a 48.2 acre roofing project, so we're well underway on that and continue to work on that. And we're also in the midst of an escalator modernization that we think will be complete by February 27th. We're replacing, as a reminder, 35 escalators within the Congress Center that are some vintage dates that arrived before I arrived here that we need to continue to replace and modernize as we go from there. And we want to always be a good partner and reinvest in ourselves and the World Congress Center Authority. So we thought we'd put a slide together and just update it to let you know that we put in about $170 million of our own money that we make each year and try to reinvest in these facilities, specifically on projects. Now that's over and above and beyond our annual budget that we do, and we self-fund. We have 3 particular projects in front of you today. And I'll try to refer to them on the tracking document. The first one's on page 366. It's line item 27, and it's really about HVAC replacement. We're seeking $10 million this year. Just so you know, this is going to be an ongoing, multi-year HVAC replacement project for us. This project in totality is probably several $100 million, but we want to be good stewards and just ask for $10 million so we can continue the journey. The journey sometimes includes ways that you have to put stuff on top of that large roof, and we were here earlier this year, late last year, replacing 2 of our RTUs on top by helicopter. So sometimes you have to take different routes to get things done at the World Congress Center. Just a little bit background about our current infrastructure. We have a lot of HVAC units that were born in 83, 92, et cetera, and so they're running on their end of life cycle. And this $10 million is really going to help us kind of master plan the entire design of the whole system, and will also allow us to purchase some equipment to extend the 4 new units that we're just recently putting on top of the roof. This will be, again, a phased incremental plan, and so we'll be back with you at another time, but we thought $10 million would continue to help us move along. And I'm happy to answer questions as we go, or I can answer them at the end. So. The other piece is about the entertainment project on the World Congress Center campus. The governor's recommended $12 million for us. That was after a site visit with the governor over to our campus. We really are looking at a master plan of what to do next on our campus, and so I wanted to walk you through that a little bit. The Georgia International Plaza is right there in the center of your picture. We have hired the group that helped promote and do the battery where the Braves play as part of our development team to really look at the International Plaza, along with the team at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and see what's next on our master planning vision. So the rendering on the right is simply just a layout of what the possibility might be. The International Plaza, and an expanded International Plaza in this case, represents about 150,000 square feet of decking that we could build something across, and also represents another parking garage addition that we might creep a little bit further into the Home Depot backyard. Really, the project goal for us is there's a lot of development and private development going on in Atlanta, and we want to make sure that we are continuing to connect to that and complement that development that goes on around our central area of the World Congress Center, and specifically the International Plaza. We want some opportunity to expand parking and activation. I want to make sure our customers have what they need while they're here in Georgia, spending all that money and creating all that economic impact. And ultimately, we'd like to drive a little bit more revenue for ourselves at the end of the day. We've already self-funded $1 million in pre-development services for what we're working on right now, and the request is one-time funding for a $12 million supplement to those services to kind of go deeper and dig deeper on engineering and planning. And really, our goal would be then to come back and be able to have something in mid-2025 at really knowing the totality of the cost that it would take to achieve the vision. And last but not least, Centennial Olympic Park. We are the caretakers of the 1996 legacy to the Olympic Games. The Olympic Cauldron, as you're aware, it resides on Georgia State's campus. Here's a picture of it for you. We were approached by Mr. Billy Payne and asked if we would be interested in late 2023 of relocating the Cauldron to Centennial Olympic Park. Since we are the caretaker of that, he thought it would be a great idea to move that over to the World Congress Center campus. At the time, we didn't really have a grasp on the entire cost to do that, to relocate that. But we took 2024 and really started working through that. We hired an architect to give us a recommended location, because I could have just chosen anywhere in a 22-acre park, but they felt like this location adjacent to the visitor center would be a good location to have the new Cauldron in the park, or the Cauldron relocated to in the park. Additionally, we hired a construction management firm to really help us arrive at what the dollars would look like, dollars and cents at the end of the day. It's about a $2.5 million in totality project, and that would include demolition, site work, removal from Georgia State's campus, move the Cauldron over, and go from there. The $833,000 is just really a third of that cost, and it really represents a public-private partnership. And so we went back to Mr. Payne and asked him if he would help us fundraise on the private sector the other 2/3 of the cost to do this. So assuming this gets approved, then you can see our next steps, a schedule, et cetera. But we're working closely with Georgia State to make sure that we have everything in alignment on that. So in totality, there are the 3 requests, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
On that move of the Cauldron, would there be any additional work that Georgia State would have to do to the area to remediate it to use once the...
Well, I think the intent of the 2.5 was not to just leave holes everywhere. We're going to work closely with them to make sure that everything's covered up. But certainly we're on the initial planning of what's going to be relocated. We know the Cauldron for sure. We want to make sure if there's any other uses they want to have for any of the remaining.
Okay. All right. Any questions from members of the committee? All righty.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here
today. I want
today.
to point out Janet Finlayson, our CFO, and Lindsay Strickland, our Vice President of Government Affairs.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank y'all for being here today.
Something else, or
How are you today, sir?
I'm doing very well.
Thanks for being with us today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Thank you all for the opportunity to talk to you today. I bring you greetings from down in the low country in the city of Savannah. I'm going to update the group today on what we have going on down at the Savannah Convention Center But I'll start and I will end by saying we have no additional ask from the budget for this year, so it's really a good update and a thank you. First of all, just a little bit about me. My name is Kelvin Moore. I'm the Senior Vice President for the Georgia World Congress Center Authority, General Manager for the Savannah Convention Center. The relationship there is that the Savannah Georgia Convention Center Authority contracts with the Georgia World Congress Center Authority to operate the facility. I've been on staff for about a year. Before that, I've been in the industry for about 30 years, properties all across the country. Most recently in Chicago. I like the weather better down in Savannah. And the football as well. Let's see here, where we at? Okay. So a little bit about the Savannah Convention Center. Who are we? Why are we? Similar to the Georgia World Congress Center Authority, our primary mission is to drive economic impact for the city, for the county, for the state. Our vision is to be the best at what we do and to drive economic impact accordingly. So a little bit about the history of the Convention Center. We're going to be going into our 25th anniversary this year, so it's 25 years strong. Opened in 2000 as the Georgia International Trade and Convention Center. In 2014, the local authority there contracted with the Georgia World Congress Center Authority to operate the facility. Began planning on the expansion that we're completing soon in 2017. In 2019, governing authority was changed from a local authority to the state authority, and the name was changed to the Savannah Convention Center. We broke ground on the expansion, and I'm happy to say that in just 2 weeks, we're going to be opening the expansion with our first event. It is the Savannah Showdown. It's a youth volleyball tournament with 14,000 people coming through over the course of 3 days, and they're going to have volleyball courts all over the entire facility. So we're very excited about getting that open and getting that going. The important thing that we want to communicate about the Convention Center is that it is a state-owned facility, it is on state property, and it is governed by a state authority. So how we done? Last year in fiscal 24, and you should all have a copy of our annual report in front of you there. We did 135 events, welcomed over 198,000 attendees. We generated over 254,000 room nights. The Convention Center supported regional hospitality jobs, over 28,000 jobs, and generated an economic impact to the state of Georgia of $220 million. So we're very proud of our performance over the years, and specifically last year in fiscal 24. Some of our notable events, you will see here some of these events some of you have probably attended yourself. Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police and Southeast Regional Fruit and Veg Unit, a stream of others. The thing about many of these events on the screen here is that the Savannah Convention Center is their annual home. And they've been at the Savannah Convention Center in some cases for 20 and 25 years. So we're very proud of the ability to host a lot of these state and regional events over the years. Here's what we're really here to do and to talk about, is to say thank you to the state of Georgia, to the governor, legislature, for supporting the expansion of the Savannah Convention Center. As I said, we're opening in February of 2025, just a couple of weeks from now. And a little bit about the project. It's a $276 million project. It is doubling the size of our convention center from 330,000 square feet to 660,000 square feet. Not as big as Georgia World Congress Center, but we're proud of what we got, right? And you see a lot of other specs there. We're adding a very beautiful 40,000 square foot ballroom on our 6th floor with views of 3 sides of the facility. But what this does for the city of Savannah is it moves us from roughly 172nd in size in North America to the mid-70s. It expands the opportunities and expands our comp set, where we can now compete with cities like Tampa and Austin and Nashville and Charlotte as far as more regional and national events. It gives us the ability to host larger and more simultaneous events, and ultimately it increases our capacity to drive more economic activity and more economic impact to the region and to the state. So where are we so far? We have, as of today, over 100 events already booked in the expansion space of the Convention Center between now and fiscal 2030. A lot of numbers on the screen here right now, but broadly what that shows you is of the 247 events we currently have on the books in that span, 106 of those are booked because we have the expanded space. for it not the expanded convention center, we may not have been able to book a lot of those events. So that's going to really expedite our ability to drive more economic impact. Although we are not making an ask today, Mr. Chairman, we do want to update the committee on a few of our capital investments that we're looking at for the coming years. I think it's important to remind, and in some case inform for the first time, that the Savannah, Georgia Convention Center Authority is a self-funded authority, right? We have partnerships with 5 of our cities in the area, and as well as Chatham County, who contribute part of their lodging tax to help fund the authority. And over the 25 years of the convention center's operation, we've not come into the body or to the state for any operational support in operating the convention center. We've also been able to fund the vast majority of our capital needs over that time, and you'll see here since opening in 2001, the authority there has funded just under $27 million in capital investments. Smaller at the beginning, larger as you get older and things begin to go out of their useful life cycle. Some of the larger items that we're looking at over the next several years to continue to grow and modernize the facility. We have a Riverwalk repair and improvement project. For those who don't know, the Savannah Convention Center sits on Hutchinson Island. We're literally on an island, but our front door is on a river, and lots of port activity going back and forth there, which impacts the bulkheads and the other aspects of our land and investment. So part of this project there is to solidify the infrastructure and repair the bulkhead the convention center sits on. And that's phase 1 of this project. Phase 2 will become above ground and to beautify it, add pavers and lights and things of that nature. We also, not dissimilar to the Georgia World Congress Center Authority, we have a lot of aging equipment in the existing side of the convention center. You'll see 3 projects here, and the escalator modernization, the chiller replacement, and the air handler replacements are all relatively the same types of things, 25-year-old equipment. They've outgrown their useful life. Each of these products is aiming to either replace or to modernize those capacities so that the facility can continue to maintain the level of satisfaction that our customers will have on the new expanded space and the current space. And then lastly, we have a generator project that we'd like to implement in the convention center. Right now, the convention center has the expanded side and the original side. Each side has its own generator. Those generators allow us to have the basic life safety needs, lights, emergency lights, and things of that nature. This project will allow us to have one generator for the entire convention center that will allow us to have a full capacity. It does a few things. It allows us primarily to participate more fully as an emergency response shelter should the need come for any hurricanes or anything like that. We won't lose any power. It will allow us to remain at full capacity, and that 660,000 square feet can be available to support any of those life safety measures. That is all I have today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, sir, and thank you for being here today. And so the convention center expansion will be completed,
Yes, sir.
completed, and February 2025 is when you're...
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Good job. Thank you. Any questions from members of the committee? All right, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. All right, last but not least, Chairman Shaw. Thanks for wheeling in. I didn't ask where he came in from.
How are y'all?
Chairman, thanks for being here with us today. I know you were out traveling, so thanks for making an effort to get over. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you letting me be a little tardy today. Good to be with y'all. Thank you for the time to give you some of our input into the budget process. First, I've got Reese McAllister, our Executive Director, and Tom Kraus, our PIO and Legislative Liaison with me. On behalf of the entire commission and our staff, we'd like to thank y'all and the governor for all the cost of living increases over the past several years. These increases have helped us retain an experienced and technically competent staff. Many of the issues that we regulate, from enforcing the Call Before You Dig program, rate cases, integrated resource plans, to rate recovery proceedings regarding the Vogel construction project, require a specialized and technical staff. And those COLA increases have benefited the ratepayers of Georgia tremendously by allowing us to recruit and maintain that staff. During last year's hearing, we were pleased to report that Vogel Unit 3 had entered commercial operation, and we were looking forward to the opening of Unit 4. On April the 29th of 2024, Vogel 4 went into commercial operation, so both units are now in operation and creating clean energy for Georgians. The completion of the Vogel project is a crowning achievement not only for Georgia Power Company but for our entire state. Vogel Units 3 and 4 will produce enough carbon-free energy day and night for the next 60 to 80 years. These units produce enough energy to power 1 million homes and businesses. Unfortunately, as y'all know, we've got other challenges before us now, and we're going to need more energy. So we're going to continue to keep working and challenge the next task. As exciting as all this news is, I'm sure that you are personally aware and have seen in the media and even in your own power bills how much they've risen over the last few years. As a matter of fact, energy costs in the United States have gone up 33% during this inflationary period, which is 10% higher than even groceries. That's nationwide. So we're certainly not immune to these inflationary factors. Fuel costs specifically have been affected by these past several years of inflation. What is not reported is how hard our staff works to mitigate increases and protect Georgia ratepayers. In Georgia Power's most recent rate case, the utility requested an increase of $2.9 billion. After a full audit and analysis, and after many public hearings and a 6-month case, we approved an increase that was 40% lower than the original ask. So we were able to hone down in that, and I applaud my staff and our consultants for that achievement. So we were able to also spread that increase out over 3 years. With the completion of the Vogel nuclear project, the PSC leveraged the many construction delays to negotiate an agreement with Georgia Power. Work by PSC commissioners and staff saved ratepayers more than $3 billion in capital cost. That amounts to ratepayer savings nearly 30% off Vogel's construction cost. In addition to the $3 billion that we were able to save ratepayers in the final settlement on the final prudency review of Unit 3 and 4, if you go back to 2016 where we lowered their finance costs down, that saved ratepayers about $2 billion over the life of the project. And going back to the Vogel construction monitoring number 19, Georgia Power Company ate about $0.8 billion in that settlement as well. So overall, that cost is about $6 billion less than it could have been for Georgia Power's ratepayers. As far as our request, the cost of living adjustment shortfall for FY 2025 is a one-time $24,108. The governor's proposed budget added $24,000 for amended FY 2025 to cover a COLA shortfall. So we just asked the subcommittee to uphold that action. Over the past several years, the PSC has requested that the state COLA funds include pipeline safety employees. Although these are full-time state employees, the state does receive a partial reimbursement for their salaries from the U.S. Department of Transportation grant. Unfortunately, these grant funds are not fully realized until after the state's fiscal year has concluded. This delay leads to a shortfall during the initial fiscal year in which a COLA is granted. After last year's COLA increases, the one-time true-up came to $24,108. This will cover the costs that the PSC paid to these employees between the time they received the COLA and when the federal government began its partial reimbursement. We will only ask for this gap funding in years when the COLAs are approved. Legal fees. Y'all all know what's happened in terms of the legal lawsuits against challenging the way the PSC is made up and is elected. That process has gone on the last several years. Unfortunately, it has been a cost to the taxpayers of our state. But the state is in pretty good shape, it looks like. I don't want to go into too much detail because I try to stay out of those lawyers' way anyway. But they have been charging the state a good bit of money, and that the original arrangement that was made was that would come out of our budget even though the Secretary of State is the named defendant in the case. So we're still sitting on about $131,000 that was held over to pay the final cost of these legal fees. I just hope that this case will finally come to an end. As far as the where it's at right now, the U.S. District Court judge put the elections on hold originally. Then the General Assembly subsequently passed House Bill 1312 that set the new election dates. The Supreme Court did not hear the case. It's been the states won the appeal, but we're hearing that there could be further action. So we're holding that money, waiting on the final bills. Updates on the 2024 and 2025 funding increases. Y'all were good to us in terms of trying to help us modernize. The budget request last year was asking us to move the needle for service to Georgians, and we've already gotten the 3 databases that we asked for bought and paid for. The one for our Call Before You Dig program is the first one that we tackled, working through that one. That was about to go live. The phone system upgrade, we're about to have that finalized. We're going to the voice over internet phones. The Universal Access Fund audit that y'all approved, totaling $25,000 annually. That has allowed us already to discover about a $3 million discrepancy in what was owed to the fund. So that was a pretty good investment for a $25,000 annual cost. So we appreciate that. Hiring 2 new Call Before You Dig investigators last year, that's helped us tremendously. Hiring another pipeline safety investigator totaling $53,000. But as far as, our ask in the amended budget, they're small. Obviously, y'all know we've got a very small budget, total of about $12.8 million. So be glad to answer any questions. Thank y'all for what you do, and we appreciate y'all allowing us to do what we do as well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know what you said, but the screen just lit up, so I guess you're going to be here a while. But thanks for being here today. Appreciate what you do. Any questions from members of the committee? That's not what the screen says, y'all. Come on. All right, Mr. Chairman, well, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate you being here today and for the great work that you and the commission do on behalf of Georgians. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's hearing on FY25 amended budget request. And if there are any comments from members of the committee? If not, thank y'all for being here today, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.